years. Virgin birth. 145 But the angel said to him, Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you will name him John. Luke 1:7-13. New Revised Standard Version. The question of Joseph. Despite the virgin birth, it is generally accepted by Christians that Mary was married to Joseph prior to the birth of Jesus. This understanding is derived from verses in the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. Eliezer became the father of Mathan, Mathan the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary. Of her was born Jesus, who is called the Messiah. Matthew 1:16. New American Bible. Now this is how the birth of Jesus Christ came about. When his mother Mary was betrothed to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found with child through the Holy Spirit. Joseph, her husband, since he was a righteous man, yet unwilling to expose her to shame, decided to divorce her quietly. Matthew 1:18-19. New American Bible. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David called Bethlehem, because he was descended from the house and family of David. He went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged and who was expecting a child. Luke 2:4-5. New Revised Standard Version. 146. Development of the Christian doctrine. For many, the concept of Mary's marriage to Joseph brings into serious doubt the whole idea of virgin birth. In fact, Vincent Taylor theorizes, it is also possible, and even probable, that the Matthean genealogy ended originally with the words, and Joseph begat Jesus, who is called Christ, Mount I. 16. Ibid. p.10. Interestingly, the Quran totally supports the idea of Jesus's virgin birth. The context of the Quranic narration conveys the clear message that Mary was neither married, nor unchaste, nor touched by any man prior to the birth of Jesus. Conclusions. The virgin birth is reported in the Bible, the Apocrypha and the Quran. Though the details are somewhat different, in all cases Mary is held in great esteem, and her virgin pregnancy is recognized as a great honor. Chapter 9. The Crucifixion. It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon, while the sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus, crying with a loud voice, said, Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Having said this, he breathed his last. When the centurion saw what had taken place, he praised God and said, Certainly this man was innocent. Luke 23:44-47. New Revised Standard Version. The Christian doctrine that Jesus died for men's sins presupposes his death. However, since it is an important part both of the doctrine of salvation and of the doctrine of resurrection, which we will discuss in the next chapter, it seems important to review the crucifixion at this point. Almost all Christians believe that Jesus was tortured and then crucified to death. Still, there is a great deal of conjecture and speculation about the last days of Jesus. As mentioned before, some rather radical theories exist regarding the crucifixion, including that someone else was crucified instead, or that Jesus did not die but was in a coma when removed from the cross. There are no reports of the event from neutral or even hostile sources. For Christians, the only source of information on this extremely important event has been the Bible. Even the Gospels are full of contradictions regarding this event. 147,148. Development of the Christian doctrine. Matthew and Mark. The Gospel of Matthew gives the following account. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus inside the praetorium and gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped off his clothes and threw a scarlet military cloak about him. Weaving a crown out of thorns, they placed it on his head, and a reed in his right hand. And kneeling before him, they mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! They spat upon him and took the reed and kept striking him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of the cloak, dressed him in his own clothes, and led him off to crucify him. As they were going out, they met a Cyrenian named Simon. This man they pressed into service to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, they gave Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall. But when he had tasted it, he refused to drink. After they had crucified him, they divided his garments by casting lots. Then they sat down and kept watch over him there. And they placed over his head the written charge against him: "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." 2 revolutionaries were crucified with him, one on his right and the other on his left. Those passing by reviled him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself, if you are the Son of God. And come down from the cross." Likewise the chief priests with the scribes the crucifixion. 149 And elders